26 past 10. It's good morning to our Mayor, Councillor Dickerson. Good morning, Mr Mayor. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Richard. Very good to be chatting to you.
And you're in Darwin at the moment.
I am in Darwin, indeed. Nice, cool, 31 degrees, cloudy sky. Humidity always feels like it smacks you in the face.
Yes, indeed. Darwin, a wonderful place. Now, look, you've got a wonderful story about Daily Waters. You've got to tell that before we get on to things local. Tell the story. You had me in fits yesterday.
Well, my daughter's moving up here for her work, and so my darling wife and darling daughter thought they'd go on a road trip together. So they drove from Tamworth to Darwin, and they stayed overnight in Daily Waters. And my daughter, my 24-year-old daughter, thought that it's going to be interesting in the Northern Territory because their experience in Daily Waters was they walked into the pub, they were greeted with a publican who could only get around the pub on a little motorised scooter, had a nice big bullhorn on the front, so he toots the horn as you walk into the pub. But as they walked into the outdoor garden area, they were followed into that by 2 horses and a goat.
Yeah, but tell us more about the publican. Didn't you say he was so fat that the only way he could move around was on his motor scooter?
Oh, well, I wouldn't be so harsh on someone, but I think he was mobility challenged, let's say put it that way. And so the only way he could get from one part of the pub to another part of the pub with ease was by riding along on his scooter. I think his legs the bone structure may not have been able to support the weight above the bones there.
I see. And so he's got a bullhorn in the front of his thing. What was that to quieten down the staff, was it, to quieten down the patrons?
Well, my daughter and my wife couldn't work out what the bullhorn was for, but he liked to toot it as he drove around. So I don't know whether it was to say, get out of my road, or to say, hello, how you going? But they thought it was quite interesting. Anyway, I had a bit of a chat to the publican there. He employs a few people in Daily Waters. I think the official population of Daily Waters is 9. So even to have a pub there at all was quite interesting. But he does a bit of a roaring trade for people passing through the area.
So did they stay the night, or
they did? That was what they'd planned their overnight stops, and that was one of their overnight stops. So they had accommodation pre-booked because obviously you've got to make sure you pre-book in Daily Waters, otherwise it books out pretty quickly. I think there's probably only 3 beds there, so they stayed the night there. But the good news is that the meal at the pub was fantastic, and they figured that if they went with steak or something like a meat patty, a bit like you were just advertising a minute ago from the Dubbo Meat and Seafood Centre, then most people along the road there, probably truckies stopping in for hamburgers, they thought they were going to be pretty safe if they just went with meat, and they found that was a pretty good option.
Yeah, fair enough. Look, getting on to things local, you had various committee meetings during the week, and I believe there's been a report put out by Council as to regarding changing over all their vehicles over a period of time to electric vehicles. Was that motivated by you, or was it something in council already?
I think it was, they already had work being done on that, because it's something that getting to net zero is something that every organisation, every government department is going to have to aim or get towards net zero at some point in time. So that was already there. Obviously, I've got a bit of a focus on that as well. So that was brought through the committees. And at this stage, that'll be out on public consultation. I actually want to go a little bit stronger than that. That's my personal view, but I'll let it go through the public consultation process. I'll let it come back to council. I'll talk to my fellow councillors, but I think we could go a little bit harder. But the other part, Richard, that's absolutely critical to this process is that it's all well and good to have some targets. So you can put whatever targets you want. You can have 5 fleet vehicles or 20% or 100%, but unless you've got the mechanisms to get to that target, you're never going to get there. So the other part that we're working on with council at the moment is when staff have a car either as part of their package or we have staff cars that are there as part of the pool, we need to have some way of working out that it's equitable to get an electric vehicle versus a petrol vehicle, given the fact that electric vehicles are often dearer up front but cheaper to run in the long run. So we've got to come up with that formula that says you can spend X dollars more on the vehicle to begin with, knowing that we'll end up with a cheaper overall cost. So it's a bit of vision, a bit of strategy, a bit of long-term planning, but we don't want it to cost the community any more money, and we're pretty convinced the running costs of petrol cars are only going to keep going up.
Yep, I think you're probably right. The subsidy with the 20 cents off, I noticed petrol in Dubbo, again, diesel's over $2 and 98's over $2 as well. And we've got E10 and in Dubbo this morning at 175.9. So really the 20 cents hasn't made much difference, has it?
Well, I think it's knocked a little bit off, but for a short term. But then when that 20 cents goes back on, we'll see petrol 2.25, 2.30 before we know it.
Yeah, exactly. What's it in Darwin though? Did you notice?
I didn't notice. We flew in early this morning and then came straight to the motel in a taxi, so I haven't actually noticed yet.
Okay, fair enough. The tree preservation, or when we were on council, we had a tree preservation order in place and we had a committee and all these sort of things. I understand that has gone by the wayside and we've now got pressure from ratepayers wanting to be replaced. Will it be replaced?
Well, the old, we didn't actually have a tree preservation order when you and I were on council together. We had the individual trees could be put on a register. And so that's still in place at the moment. Nothing has changed there. But there are some people in the community, and that's the democracy we live in. There are some people in the community who would like that to be much stronger and to actually have a tree preservation order. And so it's there for discussion, I suppose, the important part of that. One of the things that I've commented to the group leading the charge on that is that I'm not convinced that the community would love the idea of us, as in council, coming into your backyard and telling you that you couldn't take away a tree or couldn't move a tree. You might decide that you're remodelling your garden. You might decide that it's unsafe for a tree in your backyard because it might drop some branches on one of your kids running around.
Sorry to interrupt. Look, I understood it was just for the preservation of public trees in parks and in gardens and along median strips in roads. That's my understanding of what they want. Is that right? No. The push from some parts of the community is so that there would be a tree preservation order across every tree in the LGA. And obviously that would involve private ones as well. Now, there are some examples, to be fair to the group, they've given us some examples of other local government areas that do have this type of operation. So they do have people that actually have, that policy in place where you can't go and cut down a tree without actually getting permission from council, and you've got to have a pretty good reason to go and do that. So, and they had examples there around Orange and Albury and Wagga Wagga, etc., that different things are in place around those different LGAs. As I said, our particular one at the moment hasn't changed. It's been the same that way for many years. So again, there's the public street process, there's the private or public street tree process, there's the private tree process. So there's a range of things in there. The idea of this report was really to bring all this to the public, to let the public see what was being discussed and really have a bit of their say on that particular process, because again, we're there to represent the views of the public. If the public wants this sort of policy in place, then so be it. Okay. And finally this morning, the actual budget, the council budget, it hasn't been terribly well publicised, and it's got me a bit worried. I wonder how many people have actually looked at it and decided that it's good, bad or indifferent. Is there going to be more notice given about it, and how many more days have we got left to look at the budget?
Yeah, look, submissions are open till the end of the month in that particular budget, so we've still got a fair bit of time left. Again, it's a balancing act. We don't want to spend too much money of our budget on advertising the fact the budget's out on display, because that seems like a bit of a waste of money sometimes, but we want to make sure the community knows about it. Talking to you on this program, obviously that means a huge number of people know about it. I encourage people to go and have a look at it, and there's a lot of information in there. We're talking about $240 million or thereabouts. So really focus on things that are important to you. And we love seeing submissions from the public come in. So, for example, if you want to see more money spent on a tree preservation order and less money spent on some other part of the community, then let us know that, because we want the budget to reflect what the community wants. The 10 councillors aren't there to reflect what they personally want. It's what the community wants out of the budget.
You haven't advertised very well the increase in sewage charges and water charges, though, have you?
Oh, look, it's all there, and we'll keep putting out little snippets, I suppose you'd call it, on different parts of the budget. Putting the whole budget out there and saying, here it is, have a look at it, sometimes is a bit daunting. So we're going to do a little thing called Budget Bites, where we'll pick up one little part of the budget and just focus on that for maybe a day or two and let people know about that part. So again, the things that are relevant to individual people, and when you talk about fees and charges for things like sewage or water, then they are relevant to lots of people. So there's a whole range of things in there. There's also the rate pegging, which hopefully we've got most of the people in the community to know about that. IPART decided that inflation in local government circles was only 0.7%, which is ludicrous given the fact that generally inflation is seen to be running at about 5.1%. So they allowed councils across the state to put their rates up by 0.7%. As you can imagine, there was an outrage or a cry of this isn't enough from all the councils across the state. And so then IPART have said, if you've previously advertised a budgetary figure above 0.7, Dubbo had advertised 2.3 as the likely amount, then we'll let you put it up to that amount. So we've made application to that, and then we'll find out on the 21st of June whether or not that's been successful. And that's important for the community as well, because that's an increase in rates. But what I'm mainly hearing from people, Richard, is not so much charge me less rates. They're saying, please do more things like roads or swimming pools or other things in the community. People tend to, at the moment, the feedback I'm hearing from the community is we want more stuff in our community. They're not saying the rates are ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree with you there, and I think the 2.3 rise will only bring about $650,000 extra to council anyway. And I think what you're saying is quite true. I think we've had an incompetent council up until the present one, and basically things just weren't done. It seemed to me that everything that the previous council did under the previous Mayor Shields, things were just cut back everywhere, and nothing was done. Am I right in saying that?
I think the comment, I don't want to comment too much on the previous council, but the comment I would make is it seemed to be ad hoc expenditure. There didn't seem to be a lot of strategy or planning in expenditure, but even strategy in a range of things. For example, housing. We've got 52 blocks of land coming onto the market next month. There's been no blocks of land released by council for the last 3 or 4 years. And that, to me, was just a lack of strategic direction, a lack of focus, and getting to the problem now where we see a huge lack of housing in the market, not just from council, but just that lack of strategy, I think, was obvious there. But there seemed to be some projects that went ahead and had too much money spent on them. Other projects have been stalled, and I think that was the thing. They seem to be very ad hoc in their exposure or expenditure.
It's a very gentle way of putting it, Mr. Mayor. It really is. Look, finally, the roadshow. We've got a real estate roadshow on Tuesday. Are you going to be part of that? Council going to be part of that?
I'm actually aware of a dinner on Monday night, but I'm not aware of a roadshow on Tuesday. So, as always, you're a font of information for me. You've always got extra information for me. So I'll have to find out about the roadshow on Tuesday.
Even when I was your deputy mayor.
On Tuesday day, I know I'm over at Yeovil because the Yeovil show is on, and of course, a small part of Yeovil is part of Dubbo. So I said I'd go over to that particular show, but I'm not aware of any roadshow, real estate roadshow. Thank you, that'd be good. But yeah, so Monday night, definitely the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales. I'm speaking at their dinner that's at the RSL Club, and I actually did hear from Bob Berry that they're completely sold out. They have more people that want to go than they've got tickets for, and the hard part is coming back out of lockdown, knowing how popular an event might be.
Yeah, all good. When are you coming back from Darwin?
Early Monday morning.
All right. Have a good weekend in Darwin. Enjoy. Have you been to Darwin before?
I haven't been to Darwin before, no. So lots of things to discover.
Have a look at some of the war stuff. That's worth looking at. And there's some very nice restaurants in Darwin, right down on the water. Yeah,
I went for a run along the waterfront this morning and looked at the World War II oil tunnels. So, yeah, lots of interesting things to see. And obviously lots of wartime memorabilia, or not memorabilia, but history here as well.
Yeah, indeed. And go and have a look at the Chinese port while you're about it too. That's interesting.
Yeah, lots of things to see.
We'll talk next week.
Thanks, Richard.
Okay then, bye-bye. Mayor of Dubbo, Councillor Mathew Dickerson.